In this video, we're going to take a look at how a yurt-dwelling, horse-herding group of nomadic people from the steppes and see how they transform and lay the groundwork of modern globalization that we see today. My name is Jarvin and welcome back for another video on the Mongol Empire. This is Everything Empires. Though the Mongol carry a reputation much closer to warriors than Wall Street bankers, history actually paints them to have a soft spot for world commerce and trading. This all started when the Mongols were able to do what no empire has ever done before, and that was to control the primary global trade route at that time, the Silk Road. Much of the areas of the Silk Road were all controlled by different kingdoms and empires, each all divided by hundreds of groups separated by religion, ethnicity, and culture. Traveling each section of the route carries more restrictions, more tariffs, and this really limited the Silk Road's full trading potential. Now, this all changed when the Mongols blitzed up everyone on this path, from China all the way to Central Asia, strictly to the Levant, and eventually making their way to the Eastern Europe. The entire Silk Road was consolidated under one empire. The exchange of goods between the East and the West went absolutely berserk. It was actually under Mongol rule where the Silk Road really reached its height and pinnacle when it comes to trading and travel. Now, we have to give the Mongols credit, as they were more business savvy than the history books actually paint them to be. Knowing that the merchants and the traders were actually the cornerstones of commerce and trading, the Mongols actually gave them special provisions, granting them tax exceptions or lending them loans with super low interest. It became so successful that the Mongols actually entered into business partnerships with these merchants. Called Ortoks, the Mongols acted more as angel investors and venture capitalists. This nomadic group of people became corporate overnight. And it didn't stop there. The Mongols were able to build a strong communication infrastructure by building thousands of postal stations all across the empire, 1,500 in China alone, called the Yam System. The delivery information would have a messenger on horseback, traveling from one station to the other without sleep or rest at speeds so quick, they were actually nicknamed arrow messengers. This type of infrastructure, with its speed and efficiency, was actually not seen for another 600 years. And that's how far ahead the Mongols were at that time. And it didn't stop there. Seeing how the merchants were doing a pretty much awesome job of providing capital to the empire, the Mongols actually retrofitted these postal stations into hotels for these merchants to use during their journey for free. While paper notes were already being used as local currency in China, coins were still the primary format of currency in the rest of the world. Similar to the mindset of many tech companies today, the Mongols knew that when you control the platform, it is very easy to dictate the standard. By controlling lands stretching from modern-day Korea all the way to modern-day Poland, the Mongols were able to circulate paper format currency into the mainstream and introduce paper to millions of people for the very first time. Even Marco Polo was so shocked to see paper notes. And this guy was from Venice, which was supposed to be the commerce capital of the world at that time. And this really just goes to show you how forward-thinking the Mongols really were and how business savvy their thought process are. The Mongols even created the world's very first passport called the Paisa, which granted holders special access and services anywhere in the empire. Think Amex Black Card and diplomat status all rolled into one. Now take a guess who the Mongols gave these special passports to. Those damn merchants who already get free lodging and tax breaks. What would be one of the biggest social policies that the Mongols could ever do that later global empires such as the Spanish and the British could not carry out was establish a policy of religious tolerance all across the empire. This was the absolute game changer. Never before were all three major religions, four if you count Confucianism, were all under one roof and have the freedom to practice their own religion without threat or harm. This is especially worth highlighting as this was happening at the same era of the religious wars of the Crusades in the Middle East. Go figure that these lands were not under Mongol rule. Though I do not doubt how the Mongols most likely had some ulterior motives or political agenda to carry out such a open and safe policy to treat everybody equal, this was still a huge step forward for pretty much the world. This was all happening in the 14th century. Meanwhile, our European powers was still grasping that there are religions other than Christianity. So that narrative of Europeans being forward thinkers and being the light to the savages of the East, let's put that narrative to the side. When we hear the word globalization, we tend to picture purely more on the economic level and aspect, which is fair, but we should not minimize the result of increased relationships between different groups of people on a social and cultural level. By promoting trade and enacting positive social policies covering hundreds of millions of people, which is pretty much most of the known world at the time, the Mongols brought the whole world closer than it ever has been before. Unfortunately, while the Mongols did lay the initial foundations of what can arguably be the framework of modern globalization, their status as economic-minded or business-savvy did not translate very well in the history books. Perhaps it was their over-promotion and tolerance of other cultures that they were not able to stamp out their cultural identity and footprint on the world scale. This is evident as the later Khans would take on cultures and religions of the territories that they controlled instead of maintaining the Mongol culture and practice. Scholars would actually pinpoint that modern globalization actually started when Christopher Columbus sailed for the New World. To the Mongols' credit, at that time, the Silk Road were no longer controlled by the Mongols, and trade actually regressed due to new trading policies enacted by the new powers that be, which is the new Ottoman Empire. What is overlooked in history was that due to how the Mongols transformed trading into a more corporate global machine, that resulted in Europeans becoming so dependent on goods coming from the East that they were willing to search up alternate routes to maintain those trade connections. That eventually led to the Age of Discovery, and the rest is history. My name is Jarvin. Thanks for watching that video. Please like and subscribe. And if you haven't seen my other videos, click on the links above, and I'll see you guys in the next one.